All right, we're day 3 on Holy Week, which would be Tuesday morning. On Sunday, we saw Jesus come in on a colt. Everyone is happy to see him because they think he's the Messiah, except for the religious leaders. On Monday, we then see Jesus curse a fig tree, and the fig tree represents Jerusalem and really the religious leaders who are involved with the temple, including the priests and the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And then Jesus goes to the temple and he throws down some judgment. He flips over some tables and he points out their greed. And so now that Jesus has really stepped up and frankly picked a fight with the religious leaders, as you can expect, on day 3, Tuesday, the leaders have something to say to him. And so we now turn to Mark chapter 11, verse 27. And there in Mark 11:27, they challenge him and they say, "Who are you? By what authority do you come and tell us what to do and how to lead these people?" And essentially, Jesus' response is kind of a drop the mic, and he says, "Well, you tell me. If you can answer this, then I'll answer you. John the Baptist, did he baptize in the power of man or in the power of God?" And the religious leaders don't like this question because they know that if they say in the power of man, the people will be upset because they really liked John the Baptist. But if they say in the power of God, then the bigger problem is they have to say something they don't believe. And then Jesus comes back with a parable, and essentially the parable says, look, God gave you this place. He gave you these people to look after, and you took advantage of them. And every time he sent a prophet to warn you and to check in on you, make sure that everything was going all right, you killed them. And now he's sending his son, which is me, by the way, to check in and to make sure that you're leading them right. And guess what? You're going to kill him too. Well, they don't like that, and they come back with several responses. And so now we're starting to see this kind of sparring match, this kind of fisticuffs between Jesus and the religious leaders. And we see that they challenge him on paying taxes to Caesar, because the Jewish people don't think they should pay taxes to Caesar. They think if they're going to pay taxes, it should only be to God. So they say, hey, Jesus, pay taxes to Caesar or taxes to God? Jesus holds up a coin and says, render to Caesar's what's Caesar's, and Caesar's face is on the coin. If this is Caesar's, then you pay taxes to Caesar and render to God what's God's. And once again, Jesus drops the mic and walks away. And then they challenge him again because they are not going to let him go. And they just say, hey, look, what about a woman who's married to a man, and then that man dies, and then she gets remarried to his brother, and then the brother dies, and then remarried and remarried and remarried. In the resurrection and eternal life, who is she married to? And Jesus says, you clearly do not understand what the resurrection looks like, because she will not be married to anyone. And they pretty much decide, we can't touch this guy. We don't have anything we could say to him. But what's interesting to me in all of these encounters with Jesus, their questions are always questions of power, of influence. Whether it's directly or indirectly, they are trying to position themselves as an authority over Jesus and really over the people, because they are scared. All this time, they've been amassing this power and this influence and, frankly, this wealth on the backs of peasant Jewish men and women in a religious system. And now it looks like that's starting to fall apart, and they are scared. And so they're pushing back hard. What I love about Jesus' his response to them, and this is Mark 12, verse 38. He says, beware of the scribes who like to walk around in long robes and like greetings in the marketplaces. Look at me. I'm looking for fame. I'm looking for popularity. Give it to me as much as you can. And have the best seats in the synagogues, in the places of honor at feasts, which you get the best food and the best conversations. In verse 40, who devour widows' houses. they manipulate and take advantage of widows so they can get another nickel and another dime out of them. And Jesus just portrays them as these greedy, power-hungry men who are manipulating and taking advantage of the Jewish man and woman. Now, as Jesus brings all of this together, he is now sitting in the temple, and he's sitting in the women's court where they would have gathered all the money in little boxes and little treasuries so that the priests and the temple can be supported. So verse 41 says, "And he sat down opposite the treasury and watched the people putting money into the offering box. Many rich people put in large sums, and a poor widow came and put in 2 small copper coins." So the 2 small copper coins, they estimated that would have been about $1.40. That could barely get you a cheeseburger today. And so she puts in 2 small copper coins. Verse 43, "And he called his disciples to him, and he said to them, 'Truly, I say to you, this poor widow who has put in more than all those who are contributing to the offering box. For they all contributed out of their abundance, but she out of her poverty has put in everything she had, all she had to live on.'" So Jesus is saying this: the person to commend is not the person who has amassed all of this stuff, has maybe amassed all this wealth and all this influence and can give out of the top of what they have, maybe as a point of pride. He is pointing to the person who may only be able to give $1.40 in the offering plate, but they have sacrificed everything. I'll be honest, I would love to have a life where I didn't have to worry about the next paycheck. At the same time, do I want a life where I have to step on the backs of others to get where I'm trying to go? I have to manipulate and take and always be the center of everything? Wouldn't I want to rather live a life like this poor widow? She may not have much, but when she goes to sleep at night, she goes to sleep in full confidence that she was as generous and as giving as she could be. On the 3rd day of Holy Week, as we continue to walk with Jesus, he challenges us. He says, look, in my kingdom, it's not about being able to get it all at the end. It's about giving it all away. Don't keep your eyes on the religious leaders and their power and influence. Keep your eyes on the poor widow who sacrificed everything for the God she loves.